Hail Cheaters! Welcome to the Always Cheating Podcast. My name is Josh. I'm here with Brandon. Brandon, how are you?
Merry Christmas. I'm fine.
Happy New Year. Happy holidays. Happy Hanukkah.
I don't know why. I just got stung by the Christmas hornet over the weekend, and now every interaction I'm just gonna punctuate it.
Yeah,
with Merry Christmas.
That old Christmas wasp you hear so much about.
Absolutely, it's a stinger. It's a stinger. Speaking of stingers, game week 15. We've got a lot to unpack here, Josh, and I don't know if it's. I think some people would say a bit of a nothing burger with the Merseyside derby.
I don't think so.
Other people would say
something burger. I would say,
yeah, it is a something burger. I mean, 2 patties at least in this burger. I would suggest. Yeah. There was. It's sort of like if you take a postponement of the first match of a game week. Just on its own, you think no big deal. Yep. But what happened, Josh, was a ripple effect.
Yes,
and that's kind of what we're here to unpack.
Yeah, I think you're right. A pretty extreme one in the end, too. Right? I mean, in terms of, I suppose you had some people who went for Holland if they still had him, right? That would have been a reasonable alternative.
Yeah.
And so
our buddy Sam, who we constantly pick on for cascading, and he climbed the ranks through captaining Holland.
Well, did he in the end? Because I feel like in the end, I guess he was still better than Saka, right? So and so basically, I mean, just not to put the cart before the horse here, right? Because what ends up happening is you and I, and again, I have made a pledge this year, Brandon. This is a pledge I actually plan to hold, despite my great desire to destroy that pledge right now on this pod. My pledge is not to complain about FPL gameplay this year. Okay. So yes, is it unfortunate that I was sleeping when all of this came through? I had 2 transfers. I could have rejiggered my team a bit more. But I wake up to the postponed match. I guess, did I wake up? I mean, the problem is the deadline is 90 minutes before the match anyways, right? So I would have had to wake up at what would have been 6 a.m. our time, right? 11 a.m.
Not just to press on this a little bit. You knew this was a strong possibility, though, didn't you? As you went to bed Friday night.
Sure, but they didn't even change the deadline to the first wave of matches. They kept the 6 a.m. deadline.
Well, I feel like if I press you more, I'm going to break your pledge. I'm going to break your pledge. So
it's just let's get
the game is a very narrow sort of tunnel that we're all traveling through.
Absolutely,
and it's not going to deviate.
No, and eventually we should be able to change our teams once the clean sheets go up. That's just a common sense approach. That would actually, even people who aren't in the time zone like you and me would actually be served by this. And this idea that no one would be served by this, I don't understand it. You could set alarms and no matter where you are in the world, and it would avoid some of this feeling that sort of only if you're in the UK are you able to that time zone are you able to properly set your team. So for matches.
At the risk of making you angry, I did set my alarm for 5:30 a.m., knowing that we would know whether this game was postponed or not.
Well, you're a single, you don't have kids, it's you can just sleep, go back to bed for 6 more hours, if you want to. All kinds of. I had to take my 8-year-old to a writing center thing at 10 a.m. I need my beauty rest, Brandon.
Gotcha. Yes, and it shows. If you're listening to the pod, just go to YouTube.com. You can see Josh's gorgeous visage.
Look at my. Yeah, I have no pores, Brandon. Look at your face is so porous. I can see every pore.
It's one of those acne commercials from the 90s, and I'm the before and you're the after. It's incredible.
All right. Well, anyway, so the thing is, what's funny about this, sort of, I guess, is that I'm actually having a good week. I'm up 200K. Maybe we'll see what happens with the Wolves, with the West Ham Wolves game tomorrow. But I'm almost certainly going to be on a green arrow this week. It's just it's one of those. It's I'm kind of I'm on a green arrow in spite of myself, right? And which is fine. Sometimes you get lucky, and that's good. But I think those of us who play the game, and if you're listening to this podcast or creating this podcast, as the case is for me and you, then I actually care about playing the right way as well, like actually like managing my team properly and not just luck boxing my way into returns. And so I felt a little like it was a kind of frustrating week because so I got 8 points from Jimenez off the bench for Salah, which is good. However, if I'd known that the Liverpool match was going to get postponed, I would have kept Vardy, right? Because he had the better fixture that week. And so I lost 4 points, from that. I guess long term, I still slightly prefer having Jimenez. I don't know. Like maybe he has to go now as well. I got
Vardy's on a hot streak. I'll say that.
Oh yeah, so I transferred him out for 10 points, which was great. I turned him into the worthless João Pedro, who blank fest Pedro. So that was
there's like an onomatopoeia with the name João. I feel like when I see him, like, and it's not like the NCIS, like João. It's kind of more like a it's a sad trombone.
No, it's like when you step on a cat's tail by accident, like that kind of João.
Right.
Yeah. And so which is fine. Like the rationale I think was fine. And that was basically, it was Leicester's third match in, 8-9 days or whatever it was. Vardy had been taken off early in the last 2 matches. He's like 37. And so I was like, well, yeah, like Vardy's probably going to play, but like, he'll probably get hooked again in like the 55th minute. I prefer João Pedro both for this fixture and long term. And so then, lo and behold, Vardy plays the full 90, doesn't get either of his returns until after the 85th minute of this match, right? In which time he gets a goal and assist, finishes on 12 in the end while Pedro blanks. So that irritated me. While that was happening, in the Fulham match, meanwhile, you had Raul and Robinson both getting yellow cards within like 3 minutes of each other. And then meanwhile, I'm also kicking myself about sort of going back and forth. And I honestly can't remember. I made a case for Palmer, like just straight up captaining him on Blue Sky, like the day before. And then suddenly, I don't know if I just over tinkered or what, but I ended up with Saka vice captain, which I thought was actually pretty close. We can get more into that in a second. And then Saka scores a goal and it gets ruled out correctly for offside. But further validation that offside or that VAR is a blight on the game, just like the joy killer offers nothing in terms of satisfaction, only removes joy. It's just the ultimate like corporatization of sports,
love rules,
right?
Everybody
exactly. Rules enforce the fun, right? This like the only person it helps are like the stakes are too high, right? Sports are now too important that we can't allow human error any longer, right? And so,
listen, if the stakes are that high, the stakes are not that high for Fulham.
Yeah, exactly.
Fulham, and then they just finish in the range of 6th place to 15th. And the stakes are quite high for Arsenal.
The whole thing is so
the
shoddy.
Argument for the stakes are super high, we have to have VAR, is crushing the stakes for Arsenal.
Yeah, and then all we have to do, we have to watch these two dolts like look at a kid. They won't even show us the lines anymore because they know how shoddy the entire process is.
Oh, dude, I want a live feed. Can I get a live feed of the dolts in Stockley Park? Just every
two guys.
second.
They're like at a Dell from like 1998, just like squinting at the screen. It's like the whole thing seems so. And I'm like, well, what second did they freeze on? Like, it's like the
computer enhance.
Yeah, exactly. It's like because it's like the whole thing is so imprecise. I mean, maybe when they get semi-automated offside, which they've just punted on for the whole year. I don't know why. Like it was good enough for the World Cup multiple years ago, and they still can't get it, in the Premier League. So, all right. So rant over. In the end, I luck boxed my way into what will be 62 points. So fantastic. Great. I mean, so I'm not complaining about my score. It's just, the whole thing felt like really chaotic for me, this week. And so good score. How about you? How'd you end up with this week?
Yeah, my joy is a little more, I have less joy, I suppose. I'm on what feels like a gray dot.
Yeah.
I finished on 56 points. I am on a green arrow, and it could be my 7th green arrow in a row, which I'll take it. Mm-hmm. But I'm like 3 points. Right, I'm 3 points above my safety score. So you would think if anything happens with Cunha or Aït Nouri or Bowen tomorrow, that I'll be on a red arrow. And fine.
It's a tricky one.
this was going to happen. When you get into this run of form, that it just can't sustain itself through 38 game weeks.
Yep.
You're going to have to hit a red arrow at some point. And I guess the balm for me is this game week really genuinely did come down to the captaincy. And as I mentioned, I set my alarm to get up to figure out what was going on with the postponement, and my decision that I was planning to make was a defensive one. Okay. I was going to get rid of one of my defenders. It turned out that who did I even get rid of? I don't even remember who I transferred out. Oh, it was Mikolenko.
Right.
So Mikolenko's not going to play.
That's a good move, right?
Yeah, it's a net 2 because I brought in Jury and Timber. Okay. I was looking at Timber or Trent Alexander-Arnold. Condolences to all those who, and I was advocating for Trent too in the middle of last week. Like I thought upside and good fixtures for Liverpool upcoming. Yep. Bad transfer when you consider the postponement in the immediate term. So I went for Timber. And then the crucial decision, though, ultimately, when I woke up at 5:30 a.m. was the captaincy. And it felt like it was enough just to be proactive to move any armband or vice armband off of Mo Salah.
Right.
And I put it on Saka. My feeling was Saka, we talk... When we talk about Saka on the pod, it is always in terms of Saka's floor, which feels just so much higher than all the other premium players. Just given Arsenal's prowess on set pieces, assist potential is so high.
Fulham gave up a lot of shots too. Like that was part of my rationale too. Is I was like, well, they're just going to be giving up a lot of shots and set pieces, and they honestly, I mean, Arsenal scored their one goal on a set piece. It was kind of funny. It's actually the second week in a row that Saliba has and I don't
had a ball bounce off of his body for
basically
a goal.
Yeah, exactly, basically, and that's all about that's what good forward. I mean, so there's no
positional, right?
It's positional. Exactly, he's in the perfect position to take advantage of it. And so it's just kind of funny that in either case did the ball find him on the first ball, right? It's just 2 second ball goals, in 2 matches, which is just very unusual, especially for somebody who doesn't score a lot of goals.
And something we talked about on the Patreon pod Thursday night was Fulham's home record is really good. And obviously Fulham are a really strong team this season. Yep. But at home, they have never failed to score and they have never kept a clean sheet.
Right.
So, and I do want to be careful that all of the predictions or premonitions one would have about Fulham Arsenal, well, duh, why didn't we have the same premonitions about Spurs Chelsea, perennially a blockbuster match, and neither teams have terribly good defenses. So in hindsight, I'm God, the Palmer captaincy was right
that's
there.
Really,
that makes it super annoying.
It does. It just makes me a little salty, I think. And it's and there's no reason there's no it just is it's just one of those. It's just a bummer, right? There's no what are you going to do, right? It's done.
And then Palmer, watching that Spurs Chelsea match, knowing that everything that Palmer does, and it was we both have Palmer, so it wasn't horrifying, but knowing that the majority of people in the top million had Palmer captained, everything Palmer did was not great for us. And everything that Palmer did in that Spurs match was so dirty in that sort of he knew what he was doing. I mean, those culminating in the Panenka penalty.
But those Spurs fouls in the box are, I mean, I honestly, genuinely, they have to fire Ange.
No,
you cannot.
Stop it.
No, I'm sorry, but you cannot keep a manager on who cannot set up a defense. That's
not a defensive thing. Both of those fouls were committed by their midfielders, Basuma and Sarr, both of whom I think if Spurs
midfielders have to defend too, though. I mean,
yes, I'm not saying
style,
they don't.
Brandon, everybody has to be everywhere. Ready?
Sure, yeah. But I think the argument would be he doesn't have the personnel, and Basuma has been horrible since he moved to Spurs from Brighton. And Sarr, I like Sarr better than Basuma, but he's just a little too green still. Yeah. And those were fouls that, us being U.S. Soccer followers, this is a thing that I feel like came up time and time again with Greg Berhalter as the U.S. national team manager. Is like, to what do you pin it on the manager versus your players are just idiots?
Yeah, but I mean, like, we all see the way a coach can come in and coach up even players that don't seem especially competent at defending, like, very quickly, right? And I just, like, I mean, to me, it's just so clear now that they can't win anything with him, and like, you just can't win if you're not going to prioritize defense at all. And he doesn't seem like the kind of guy who's going to change his style, though, right? I mean,
he's on record as not wanting to change it. So it's really feast or famine with Ange, where if you got Ange the perfect personnel setup, you could achieve incredible things.
Yeah.
If you don't, you have 19 losses in 43 Premier League matches, which is bad.
This is like, he's Marcelo Bielsa, right? He plays this exciting brand of football that doesn't win anything, right? And I guess that's like, it's fine. As a neutral, like, it's great. Like, Spurs lose all the time and they win all the time, and every match is completely wild. They've waxed Man City and Man United at their home stadiums this year, like, and then they just kind of lose to everybody at home, and it's crazy. Like, you
get into really philosophical territory there of what is it to win? Do you have to win trophies in order to be a football club? And which I do not agree with.
Yeah, it comes back to the VAR thing, right? Like, is it just like they do make the game more fun? Like, having a manager who does not care if they let in 4 goals or more. Like, it is fun. Like, it would drive me crazy as a Spurs supporter, but maybe they're good with it. I don't know. Yeah.
He doesn't care. Those 4 goals, that was all part of the plan, part of the process.
All part of the process. Yeah. Trust the process. Okay. It's a multi-year process. So, I mean, so Palmer, and he's one of those he's like Mario Balotelli, where there's just something about the way that Palmer steps up to take these pens that you just know there's like no chance that it's not going to work out. And
I have this feeling, Josh, that somebody has told Cole Palmer that his grandparents will come back to life if he
gets enough
scores.
of them. Yeah, maybe that's what it is. I mean,
he's just so thick.
I guess at least we have Palmer. I mean, we're talking like he's universally owned. I mean, the effective ownership for me was like, right. So for anyone who doesn't know, effective ownership is basically how many points you get for somebody. So if you own a player, you own 100% of that player. If you captain them, you own 200% of the player, right? And so he was hurting me by like 33%, at least in the Elks Lodge. I'm sure it was maybe, I don't know, who knows what it was kind of overall. Elks Lodge being our longtime private mini league, and so it was like 33%, right? And so it was like, that's bad, but like, Cunha has a higher owner, like, you know what I mean? Like, they're just regular players.
Cunha does?
Maybe he's like at 35 or something, Wow. Anyway, but it's like, maybe that may just be like total ownership. Maybe it's not. Okay. Like, I don't know. A lot of people benched him this week, although he's probably coming on for most managers now.
Yeah, seriously.
So maybe it's a little higher. Anyway, but the point being, like, a 33% owned player, right, which is effectively what he turned into, right, when you didn't captain him and you had him, it's just not going to actually destroy your game week. It's going to hurt you in your mini leagues, right? If you're like competing for first and you're in, you were in first and you had Saka and somebody was in second, they had Palmer. But and so I think that opens up an interesting. I mean, it just really, I think it opens up a real captaincy debate now with Palmer, and any kind of even moderately strong fixture. There's a real debate about him versus. I mean, obviously Salah has been so good, right? But and Salah didn't play this week, and so. Out of sight, out of mind, maybe for a minute. But even just like looking ahead to game week 16, let's see, so Liverpool hosts Fulham and Chelsea hosts Brentford. It's genuinely pretty close, right? Like, on the one hand, yes,
both teams from West London they're basically at the same matchup.
Yeah, exactly. And
in a vacuum, who does better?
And on the one hand, you've got Salah didn't play this week, and so he's certain to start this match. Although there are Champions League matches in midweek, whereas Palmer isn't playing in Europe right now for Chelsea, and so they're hosting Brentford. I don't know. I mean, I think you can make a pretty strong case for Cole Palmer this weekend.
Well, why not Saka again? Saka is home as well, hosting Everton.
He's on the bad list for a couple days, Brandon.
Okay, naughty step for Saka.
He's on the naughty step. Let's see how I feel about him in a couple days.
Because his teammates can stay on side. I feel like it's hardly Saka's fault.
It's crazy that they play without a forward. I mean, it's just like the whole team is relying on him creating chances. Like Saka
Havertz had a joke of a match. He was insanely bad.
He got the assist for the Saliba goal, but
that should have been Havertz's goal. In that Havertz, if he's a proper number 9, he should be scoring
exactly.
that.
I agree. I thought it was a super frustrating Havertz match as well, and and they were talking again about Isak in the summer or whatever, but they kind of went into this summer without a forward, and I mean I know they have Gabriel Jesus, but he's like a forward who doesn't score, right? And so he can't help you in situations like that.
That story has been written. We were talked into it not having been written, being incomplete last season, but now Jesus his Premier League career is pretty much done.
It's crazy. Like, remember when they brought them? It was only like a year and a half ago, right? When they brought in Zinchenko and Gabriel Jesus, and they was talking about how this is like this incredible move for Arsenal. Yeah. Like a year and a half later, those guys can't even get into the squad, right? Yeah. And it honestly looks like great. Just in general, I do feel like Pep is a little bit like Alex Ferguson, where it's like if he's selling the player on, like you probably don't want to. It's like Billy Bean when he was like in his prime with the Oakland A's, right? It's like if he's selling, you probably don't want to be buying, right? It's like they have like such a
Cole
good
Palmer
sense
is
that's true.
Could win the title.
Touche. All right, touche. You got me. You did give me there, right?
I gotcha.
Sometimes I walk myself into these corners. And
that's why this is good content, Josh.
That's true. So, I'm gonna have to give some thought to that. I mean, the classic move now would be for me not to go to like immediately reward Palmer. And then have Salah, go off on Saturday. I don't know. I'm gonna give me a day. Give me a day to think about it.
Yeah, and then I mean we'll get into it. Let's talk about it.
You're right. Okay, so we're missing
our fixture preview because there's a strong captaincy candidate who is the first match of the game week, which we know is a no.
Oh well, it's actually it's a chaotic weekend ahead, Brandon. There's no early match on Saturday. And then there are 2 matches played next Sunday at 2 p.m. Eastern time. So 2 Sunday night matches on at the same time. So I don't know why. So that's happening too. So there's lots to discuss. God, I'm just getting it all out on this pod, Brandon, and
you really hate the bureaucrats. Well, at the Premier League
I know
right
it's been 16 weeks of me holding my tongue, and now it's all coming out. But get it out of my system.
Fair enough.
All right, so Palmer annihilated Saka in the vice captaincy battle. Gabriel missed his second game week in a row. Tricky spot, I think, for Gabriel owners, myself included. The only answer, as far as I am concerned, is let's see, does he even make the bench for the Champions League match, right? Like, does he start? If he starts the Champions League match, you are fine. If he's on the bench, probably fine too. Yeah. If he's not in the 18, that could be trouble for the weekend.
Sure. Quivior was the blame equal shared between Quivior and Raya, perhaps. Quivior is certainly more to blame for
the Raul.
Sure. How would you say it?
Quivior? I don't know. Quivior? I feel like you're skipping the I at the beginning. Kiw. Okay. Yeah. I don't know, but maybe I'm wrong. I don't know.
Who knows?
I don't know why I stopped you. I don't know why I decided to stop you in the middle of your speech there. Sorry.
All I'm saying is if there is the option to not play Quivior, they're going to take it.
Yeah.
So,
all right.
So like just to underline your point of if Gabriel is anywhere near that Champions League squad midweek, that you're good to go.
Yeah.
For sure.
I think so. I think so too. So let's, there's really no point in even talking about it as far as I'm concerned, because we just don't know anything yet, and we'll know a lot more because, these Champions League. I mean, the Champions League is. I am now officially on board with the new format, Brandon. I don't know if we've talked about this in a while, but
many times. Yes.
Yeah, but I'm just going to repeat myself again.
Go on,
because
do it.
I just think it works. Like I like how much variety there is. It is actually more fun. I genuinely like. I don't know. Can you pull up as I'm talking here, like who's actually playing who?
Oh, sure. Midweek? Yeah. I can. I'll pull up the midweek. Yeah. Just on Tuesday, you've got Sure. Dynamo Zagreb hosting Celtic. Girona hosting Liverpool, Atalanta hosting Real Madrid, Leverkusen hosting Inter Milan. Oh my God!
Right, I didn't mean every single match. I just meant the Premier League.
Okay, so Liverpool is away. Girona and Villa are away. RB Leipzig.
Oh, cool!
And then on Wednesday for the Premier League, City are away. Juventus and Arsenal being the lone Premier League home team in the Champions League hosting Monaco. So I don't know if. Juventus, I've not been following them too closely. I don't think that they've been pulling up trees this season in Serie A.
Yeah.
But still, that's not like a pushover match.
No, top four for sure. Like, in Serie A for sure. I was just looking at the table a while ago. I pulled it up as we're talking here.
I think it's generally, though, a light lift for the Premier League teams. Villa away Leipzig. Might be the worst matchup, and I don't know.
I mean, that's not a bad matchup, though. I mean, RB Leipzig, like especially away, I think that's it's a tricky. That could be a tricky
for sure.
match.
Exactly what I'm saying. I think that they might have the worst of it. Aston Villa.
Oh, I see. Week. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. I think, and I guess that's what I like about it is that it's like every Champions League window now, there are a handful of matches that are really uninteresting, but there are always a couple of interesting ones too, right? Because there's so many clubs now. And so like, it is sort of fun that you're like, every week you're like, who are they going to play? Like, who is the, who's playing who? And it has actually added a little more fun, like more than I was expecting. So, and I'm not the one who has to get tired from playing these extra matches. I could just get to watch them on the television, Brandon. Yeah, sit on my couch. Exactly.
Rubbing your belly.
Yeah, patting my belly. Exactly. So, all right. So Gabriel, we'll find out more. All right. We're moving through the talking points here, Brandon, from this weekend.
Yes.
And Mbomo's revenge. You noted you have you send out the little weekly newsletter, the old mini league mate, which we'll free plug them because they've always been very good to us over the years.
If you run a mini league with your pals and you're like, how do I keep people engaged? Mini league mate is a pretty cool service. They send you like a robust PDF full of stats just for the people in your league that just kind of generates some conversation week to week. So that's cool. Yeah. So when I sent it out to our personal league, and the sort of like the sort of like deadline dossier came through shortly after Mbomo did his thing, and Mbomo was the most transferred player out in our mini league, which is certainly reflective of most of the fantasy game. Yeah. So people have lost patience with Mbomo, and he destroyed it.
Yeah, he actually was incredibly close to having 2 goals and an assist.
Right. He had that sort of like he was wide left, mistake by the defense or goalkeeper, I don't call. And
keeper. Yeah. And it was just the defender, whoever it was, had a clearance like right at the last second. Like it was, John Stones versus Liverpool levels of last second. Right. I think, and so now it's sort of interesting to figure out what to do. I mean, I still could consider moving him on. So Mbomo, they play away to Chelsea. So he probably at the very least is on my bench this week to start anyway. But I mean, it's sort of like, I mean, I don't know about you, but my feeling was it just was never a priority to move him on, right? Because especially because the home fixture in 15, and I mean, Newcastle are much less strong, away from home than they are at home. And so I was like, well, this could be a battle if nothing else. And so his run of fixtures ahead, not great though. I mean, it's Chelsea away, Forest, who are a tough opponent, Brighton away, Arsenal home. I mean, like, I guess if you want to look all the way to January 4th in game week 20, they do play Southampton. So I could move him this week. I mean, the question is there some player that I really love that I want to move him to? Bruno is not like Bruno in theory would be a player I would strongly consider, but they play away to Man City this week, right? Like it's not the ideal week to do it, even if Man City are, shipping goals right now.
Mbomo is the ultimate "what have you done for me lately" player, and it's just like the disrespect that I am also guilty of Mbomo, just sort of like, you're in my fantasy team by the grace of God, Brian Mbomo.
Meanwhile, he's got 9 goals and 2 assists.
I know. He's a killer. He's great.
Yeah.
I don't know what everyone's complaining about. So it's sort of like, to echo your thought, like get rid of Mbeumo, but for whom?
Yeah,
and I'm not sure that person has emerged. I think Bruno after the Manchester derby becomes that much more appealing.
I think he's up there, and that is something I think about when I consider possibly bringing in Trent this week. Is whether I want to do that, and that would pretty much gobble up money to go from Mbeumo to Fernandez. So that would be one thing. I mean, I don't know, like the Enzo thing, to me, this is just like a little, I mean, it's an incredible run from him, like to be sure, 3 goals and 3 assists. It feels like a kind of fluky little moment. It does not feel sustainable to me. So, we'll see.
If again, just to go back to the Mbeumo comparison, Mbeumo plays in a role in which his remit is goals, assists,
create chances,
facilitate the attack.
Yeah.
Enzo, he is kind of playing a new position in the last month or so,
right?
And still, it just feels a little too fluid with Enzo.
Yeah,
I agree.
Exactly.
With you.
It doesn't mean I will never ever own Enzo, but it's like this is like, because sometimes it does turn into a lasting thing. Like I remember Solly March a couple of years ago, for Brighton, like had this run where it was like, well, I can't believe this because Solly March has never been the kind of player that you would own in fantasy. Like for years and years and years, Enzo hasn't been at Chelsea that long, right? But he's been there long enough for us to have a real. I mean, he had no goals and no assists for the first 10 weeks of the season, right? It's not like And last year, I think he had what was it? He had 3 goals and 3 assists, right, on 26
He was
starts.
also dropped from the team.
Right.
Basically, it wasn't working, and they were playing Lavia and Caicedo in the double pivot when it was working pretty well.
Yeah.
So it's very in the mix.
Yeah. Then there's something to be said for just grabbing a player on a great run of form. I mean, God, you can do worse with your moves. That's for sure. And I think with this run for Chelsea is so good though too. Like am I gonna talk myself into Enzo by the end of this pod? But it's
I'm already talking myself not into any player, but I'm talking myself into Todd Bowley. Galaxy braining all of us.
Yeah. Well, at the very least, I think the manager deserves a lot of credit, right? Like,
apparently.
Yeah. I mean, but the run for Chelsea is fantastic.
Yeah.
Brentford, Everton, Fulham, Ipswich. God, like when is the next bad fixture? You've got to go to January 25th, Brandon, to find a fixture that isn't
in the year 2027. I'm assuming.
Yeah, exactly. Before you can finally find a bad match for Chelsea. So I don't know. So maybe Enzo's on the table. Nicholas Jackson, you brought him in 2 weeks ago. Obviously, you've only had one actual start. You have any thoughts on how he played today?
Awful. So the appeal of Nicholas Jackson coming into game week 14 or 15, I should say, was, all of the fear and trepidation you had about Nico Jackson last season where he was slow in reaction, clumsy on the ball. It felt like he was just playing much better and he was in the zone with the rest of Chelsea.
Yeah.
Against Spurs, I felt the old Nico Jackson where he was slow on the ball, not making great decisions, not very strong in the hold-up play.
Yeah.
He had some decent layoffs and all of that, but he showed me nothing that would say, I'm happy I brought him in.
Right.
So he would, if I was a Nicholas Jackson owner, even 1 or 2 game weeks old, he would be on a very, very, very short leash. And, something that I guess becomes a theme now for the next couple of episodes, Josh, is how I need to figure out when in the next 2 to 3 weeks I'm going to play my wild card.
Yeah. It's right, because when is the deadline if you have not played your wild card?
The end of December, basically. The last I have to play it before the deadline of the last game week of December, roughly the 29th, thereabouts. I can't quite remember the exact date.
You should make sure you get the exact date.
Yeah, I should figure that out. But I mention it just because I was thinking about this today. Like, Nicholas Jackson is not on a wild card team right now. He is. And I think the appeal of him was a luxury transfer where you think, as you mentioned, the run of fixtures for Chelsea is incredible.
Right.
And he still has that sort of Damocles over him with the 5th yellow card incoming. And I don't know if part of what I saw against Spurs was he was kind of a little bit within himself. Like, not like, does Nicholas Jackson need to have that wilding freedom to just like give up yellow cards to just let him be in his zone? I don't know, but I didn't love what I saw today.
Yeah, I felt like he seemed really upset when he was taken off the pitch too, which is like kind of, I don't know.
Don't you feel like players seem upset when they're taken off in that situation because they have to basically show for the cameras, because they know the cameras are on them and the fans, like, I know I played horribly.
Right. Yeah.
I need to acknowledge that and show that I understand that what I did was not good.
Yeah, maybe so. I don't know. That might be. I can't tell if that's giving them too much credit or not. But yeah, you might be, because he's a pretty young guy still too, right? So he might just be.
Speaking of horrible, well, I don't recall ever seeing this at the new White Hart Lane. The waterfall of trash on the pitch. Like, what was that?
I don't know.
Give me a. I mean, I understand like the battle of the bridge and all. Just this. Is this just like a manufactured sort of? I mean, it's not manufactured. Seems very harsh. Is it really just down to that? It's really lame. Oh, it's just like, I'm going to crumple up my program and throw it at somebody trying to take a corner kick.
I don't love that. It's like the nicest stadium too. Like in terms of like kind of the most modern.
You come out of the cheese cave and you crumple up your. You get hit. Imagine getting hit with a little bit of baked brie on the head while you're trying to take a corner kick.
I have a real problem with littering in general, where it's like, I can't believe it. You know what I mean? It's like, well, like whenever you see like littering in general, I'm just like, I maybe this is like some like Midwest coded feeling or whatever. I'm just
I feel it.
Like
I feel it.
Yeah, it's stunning to me. You know, like people who, like, it's to not mind yourself or to throw something anywhere. It's like, it's
crazy. I put so many pieces of gum in like crumpled up gas station receipts just to be a good citizen.
Exactly. Yeah, it's the little things that keep society together, Brandon. All right. All right. Let's move through a couple more here, though. We're covering everything right now. It was a lot. See, I mean, you said it was nondescript, but I think there was actually a ton that happened this weekend in the as you can tell here. So. Man City with another draw. The defense still looks terrible. It's just clearly not. Feels like it's not going to be their season. I mean, it's like famous last words with them. Like, never count them out, and I certainly am not counting them out. But it feels like it's going to be a hard.
It's funny they draw against Crystal Palace, and just like 1 point in the league table, suddenly Crystal Palace are sort of like peeking around the fence, sort of like,
I know,
hey, what's going on up there at the top of the table? We might have something to say about it. It's just like they're always lingering, but still, from the midfield to the defense, Ortega had a bad match too. Just all kind of grotesque.
I mean, Chelsea overtaking Arsenal on the table was kind of surprising. Kind of snuck up into second place there.
They really did. And I don't know. I feel for Arsenal fans because, I feel for them because I feel like I am, even though I'm wearing my Fulham cap. And all respect, Fulham will stymie every Arsenal title challenge from here to eternity, and we take pride in that. But Arsenal are playing great football.
They were, although Fulham went toe-to-toe with them today, I would say. Yep. I didn't feel like they really gave Arsenal a lot of chances. The one goal they conceded was kind of a somewhat lucky bounce, perhaps.
And I think that's kind of incredible. Issa Diop is kind of a comic figure in recent Premier League center backs, and with a Bassey Diop center back pairing, you think, okay, at least two big chances are going to be given up here. And they played really, really well. Bassey was to credit for the offside call on the Saka goal, where he stepped up so anyway, Fulham played really well.
Yeah, who got the assist for the was it for the
Kenny Tete.
Tete. Right back. Yeah. That was that whole sequence was amazing, and it really great goal from Jimenez. Had to be absolutely perfect angle to beat Raya there. Really nice goal.
He is an elite finisher for sure. I remember it from when he was at Wolves, and he's just like I mean, earnest moment of the pod. Let's give it up for Raul Jimenez for his fight back to basically doing exactly what he was doing at Wolves.
I think we're blending earnestness with incisive FPL commentary. So Man United, Bruno goal, another Ahmad return. Team as a whole, though, still very unpredictable, I would say. Maybe I'm thinking more of the defense here, but just in general, I feel like it still gives me a little pause. Like I'm like, what do I do with this team? Like, I guess Bruno, I'd feel pretty good about. He's obviously essential to everything going forward. Ahmad, more or less, because he's so cheap, maybe. Although his price is kind of getting up there now. But
what's his price now?
He's up to 5.1, so still not that much, but just he's kind of a couple already. He'll probably come up with another point or two. And he was benched last week, or midweek, I should say, right in game week 14. So maybe there is a little bit of long-term starting risk there with him. Even though, I mean, obviously, like in terms of fantasy returns, we see these assists and think, oh, this guy's a lock. But it's sometimes that isn't always. Yeah, no one's a lock outside of Bruno.
It just seems like Amorim is intent on giving everybody a shot for weeks and weeks and months on end. And Amorim clearly came into Old Trafford with no expectation that he would win anything or get them into Europe or anything like that. I feel like the rest of this season could just be a constant rotation of who wants to be here next season and him trying to figure out what he's going to ask the board for in the summer. So I agree with you, like Bruno being the captain and undroppable and actually being a route to fantasy points is really the only thing. And Onana was the big red flag for Manchester United for me this weekend. Like him effectively being at fault for two of those goals, just showing his brain dead tendencies.
Well, he kind of I felt like he kind of got away from that for a while.
Yeah, for sure.
Really,
I agree.
Yeah. Like it's like sometimes like a goalkeeper, it's a little bit like a referee where it's like if you don't notice them, that means like things are going well, right?
Yes, right. So
totally. All right, well, let's end in one final note here, Brandon, which is this is a short one, which is, do we just have to give up on the Semenyo value pick dream? Like I did a couple weeks ago. It's funny because he's still heavily touted. In fact, I just looking around, he's like one of the top kind of transfer options for people this week. And so I feel like a slightly relevant question. Like I just, my feeling with this squad is basically just that like they just don't score enough, right, to make him a viable, nor are they quite put together as well as like Fulham, and like, I mean, I don't know. It's like, I feel like I'm out on Semenyo, even though I rate him very highly. I think he's very talented, but like, he's just, I don't know. It's not really happening for him so far.
No, yeah. Semenyo hasn't been interesting since that Southampton match in game week 6.
Yeah.
And I think for whatever reason, fantasy managers are still holding on to that vision. And he's really done nothing apart from, of course, a goal. Everyone scores one against Man City.
Everyone scores
these
Man
days.
City, but outside of that. Yeah, you're right. It's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. It's 8 blanks outside of the Man City match.
Yeah, I genuinely can't conceive of how you would just waste another thought on Semenyo. No disrespect. I enjoy watching him play, but the sort of fantasy honey trap. He's not even a honey trap anymore. If you're still talking about Semenyo, you're living in the past.
Yeah, I'm inclined to agree. Evan Nilsson, maybe I rate a little more highly as a fantasy asset. We're not talking about them as players, right? As a player, I rate Semenyo very highly. But it's whether he's a great fantasy asset, I don't know. I don't think so. Yeah. All right. Well, let's move on, Brandon. Want to do a quick shout out for Patreon. As we mentioned on last week's pod, it's sort of like our pledge month here on the podcast. So if you would like to support the Cheaters, and while I'm actually, why don't you do the little pitch here, Brandon? Because we got a couple new patrons who responded to the pledge. So why don't I pull them up and you can?
I love it when we say the pledge, people, it's a call and response sort of a thing. Right. But yeah, if you don't know what it's all about, Patreon is a great way to say thanks for what Josh and I do on this free pod week in, week out, and what you get in return for your support through Patreon is more Always Cheating content. You get an extra ad-free podcast every week, as well as access to our Discord and all the bells and whistles that come with that Discord, including a great community, a bunch of mini leagues that you can participate, easy access to me and Josh if you want, quick and dirty rate my teams, transfer advice week in, week out. And also, you know what? What I love most about the Discord is I have a little Wordle community, and I post my Wordle score every night. And that's
is that
what
right?
I love about
you post it every single night?
Every night, yeah.
How do you like that?
Because I'm a midnight Wordler. All of my midnight Wordlers, please shout out right now.
Rise up. Yeah.
Rise up. But yeah, again, you go to patreon.com/alwayscheating, and there are different levels where you can support at different price tiers. You get different things at those tiers. So check it out if you like Always Cheating, and we really appreciate it.
Great. And a quick thanks to TJ, Tyler Moen, and Patrick, who all became patrons.
Nice. What up, Tyler?
In December. And it's obviously as the season goes on, it's the growth, as you'd expect, right? Not a lot of people are joining fantasy leagues at week 16 or whatever. So all new Patreon supporters, people who've been listening for a long time who want to join, even just to say even if they don't really want any bells and whistles and they just want to say thank you, then that is very much appreciated.
Keep your bells and whistles to yourself. Thank you very much.
Yeah, exactly. All right. So let's look ahead now, Brandon, to it felt like we talked for a long time. It was actually only like 45 minutes or so. But let's look ahead, Brandon.
Can I lay down for the rest of the podcast?
I know. I am standing. I'm standing at a standing desk right now as we do this. So, are you? Yeah.
We're both standing.
Yeah. It helps me to, I stay focused, I feel like, if I'm, standing. When I was in debate in high school, there was a guy who actually, that was his, I was in what's kind of called like policy debate, speed debate, Brandon. And so there was a guy though who did the opposite, where he would debate seated, and he would just talk, very quickly, seated and it was very unusual. And everyone else stood, and that was kind of his thing.
He had to be seated. Was he in a wheelchair by any chance?
No, that was his style. I think his name was Takis. He had a really cool. Anyway, I don't want to get down the debate road. I love talking.
That sounds
high school
interesting.
Debate. It was very interesting. So game week 16 kicks off on Saturday. So we have 5 matches on Saturday, 4 on Sunday, and then another. Craptacular match on Monday. Bournemouth
West Ham again. Like it's like when mom keeps serving you the same garbage casserole. It's like
it's their spot. It's just like no one. I don't know why they're always on Monday. So or they're a Monday, or they're like the late game on Saturday. It's like somehow West Ham are they're the league's least interesting team, and they're on constantly.
Gotta have the spotlight.
Yeah, exactly. No offense to West Ham supporters. We had a great time at the
plenty of offense as far as I'm concerned.
Well, not to this. Well, some supporters, not most
to the
of them,
supporters.
No, yes, that's what I was saying. The supporters. Yeah. I like the stadium. Had a great experience. Like the fans.
What would you say to Lopetegui if he were listening right now? If he were a listener?
Ooh, that's a good question. How would
you dance around that?
I'm sure he's listening. Yeah.
Imagine you met him at a cocktail party. Yeah. Sort of how would you work that? Be like, hey, I really love the Premier League as a
I think you go. Is he? I should know this. Is he Spanish?
He's Spanish.
Yeah. I think I would just talk about Spain. I think that's what you do. You don't talk sports at all, right? You just go, yeah.
That's the last thing he probably wants to talk about right now anyway. So that's a good point.
Yeah, exactly. Or maybe get him. He's probably going to be back there soon. So he'll be like, "Hey, don't you wish you were in that Spanish weather right now? And it's pretty wet and dreary around here, right?" So anyway, all right. So game week 16, we got a nice spread. Of course, there are Champions League and Europa League matches at midweek, and so be very wary with your transfers. I actually have a couple transfers that I'm considering, and I'm just on the fence about whether I want to. I think I'm just going to wait, though, given we saw just this week the advantage of holding off as long as possible with the postponed fixture. And that is, it'll be fun. Now we do have a Liverpool double game week ahead. So those of us who held onto our triple captainships, we have what will hopefully be a good opportunity, right, to triple captain Salah in the weeks ahead. But I think the schedule is kind of interesting this weekend. No early match, and then 4 on Saturday, late match Forest Villa. That's actually kind of a fun match now, sort of low key fun match, Brandon.
Totally.
And then all the kind of European teams play on Sunday. Outside of Villa, I suppose. And Arsenal, actually, no, it's just a spread. I don't know why there are 2 late games. Maybe there's some reason for that. Maybe there's like a sort of marathon in London that day, or I don't know. I'm not sure why there's 2 matches that are starting so late on Sunday. Let alone 2 of them. One would be something, but 2, I don't know. So it's like every week the schedule is different, and I guess that's just part of the fun.
I'm looking up London Marathon. When is this happening? London Marathon, sponsored by TSC, whatever that is. You could cycle or walk it. I hate how April. It's in late April. So no marathon.
Who knows? Yeah, who knows then? I think as far as my moves go for this game week, and actually, you know what? I can pull up my team here as we're talking, Brandon. So take a look. I'm a little on the fence, to be honest. I feel like there's just some unanswered questions. Like the big one for me is I don't want to do anything until I know what's going on with Gabriel, right? If he doesn't play, then I have some decisions to make. I mean, Greaves didn't even make the 8 team today, right? So I feel like him as a backup option is who knows? I mean, he did play at midweek, and somebody they just didn't want to overexert him. But either way, right?
It seems strange to leave him out of the squad.
Yeah,
and if that's the case,
exactly. And we're running into the festive period here, so he's a bit of a problem. And so and I really would ideally not start Gvardiol either, right? I don't feel good about. Even though I've actually he's done okay for me. I basically got a return every other week from him since I brought him in, but I just don't feel great about keeping him long term either. And so, as is, like, my team is fine, but I have 2 transfers, and so I guess the moves I would be considering would be like one that would be actually very simple. Would be to go Gvardiol to Trent, and then I could move Konsa to Colwell. Right. And so I could sort of fix 2 defensive problems at once. I mean, Konsa is not like an urgent move out, but that would I don't feel great about his chances of keeping a clean sheet in this match. And then his fixtures going forward. I mean, they play Man City and Newcastle in the 2 following. So it's not a terrible time to move him on. That's for sure. I don't see him keeping a clean sheet any of the next 3 game weeks.
Right, but I wonder, like, if you can stem that tide, the fixtures do turn decent.
But it's almost like I'd rather just transfer him back in at that point then, or you know what I mean? Right, it's like because this is where this is where the Greaves situation becomes a problem, right? Because you have I've got Fulham's Robinson on my bench, right? But they play Liverpool away in game week 16, so not a great fixture. Greaves, who knows if he'll start that match or not, right? But either way, it's away to Wolves. I mean, Wolves, their defense is about as bad as Spurs, but like you have to assume they're going to score a couple of goals in that one as well. So I think that's so I could be in some trouble there, and so making some defensive moves feels like the sensible route. The like wild card fun route would be to because like clearly I don't want to be starting Raul and Solanke, right? And so one route would be to Solanke, of course, Solanke's great, way to Southampton, but Raul or Mbomo, those are both kind of like not ideal. So I could move Mbomo to Enzo, and then I would have enough money to go Raul to Isak. So that would be the like. Give up on your defense, just go for it with
the Ange Postecoglou
the Ange route, exactly. So that is the like kind of fun option, right? That would be that so that's one route. And so I guess those are the 2 that feel the most appealing to me. Are those 2 routes? Either fix the because otherwise it's like I guess I could go Mbomo to Enzo, and then I don't know. Actually, that might free up enough money for me to go Konsa to Trent. So that'd be another move too. That'd be kind of like a slightly wild move, but that would work as well. And then it still kind of leaves me. I guess in that case, I would just start Mbomo away to Chelsea and just bench Jimenez, which is not a terrible move to make, by the way, because they do play Southampton on December 22nd, the week after Liverpool match. So it'd be great to have him for that match. So. Yeah. So that might be actually a move that would make sense. even starting him away to Liverpool is not like an absolute disaster, but it's just obviously not preferable. So slightly tricky week.
Yeah, I on Mbomo and Colwill, I just think one thing that was abundantly clear to me in that Spurs Chelsea match was, Chelsea have a lot of glittering talent up front.
Yeah.
But it's nothing. It's chewing gum and twigs in the back.
Wow, it's poetic.
If I can paint a picture for you,
it's like the field at the new White Hart Lane. Like
I'm imagining like okay, so in the Blair Witch Project when they're like, oh, we think we're lost. What's going on? And then you see those little like ornaments, those twigs tied together, hanging from the trees, very ominous. That's basically every Chelsea defender is like one of those twig bundles, like from the Blair Witch Project.
Yeah,
that's how I view them.
Yeah, that's interesting.
It's terrifying.
Yeah.
So I think they're basically what I'm trying to say is I think Chelsea's defense stinks. And this is why I'm planning to start Mbomo against them and would not endorse a move to get a Chelsea defender.
I agree with that. And so, I mean, I'm inclined to agree with that, I should say. The other move, I suppose, I don't know, it's tricky. I mean, if Gabriel is healthy, then obviously he's a great start for this match. Let's see, I have, which money do I have in the bank? I've got 1.1 million in the bank. So I think, gosh, it just depends on how much his price changes over the next. Oh, Const's down to 4.4. That's ridiculous.
I know, yeah.
Yeah.
Which is so disrespectful. He's had a fine season. Fine fantasy season.
Yeah. I now think I'm probably priced out of I don't think I could get Timber anymore. I think he's gone. He's too expensive now. Timber's at 5.6. Nope, I'm already short. So the Timber move is out now, sadly. He was very active too. I think that he's a great buy. I mean, I
liked his performance against Fulham, and it's sort of like what we were talking about last week of how it was sort of deceptive. He's not Ben White because Ben White is Mr. Overlap and Timber is Mr. Tuck Inside.
Right.
And he is just becoming more and more engaged in that attack, which you'd like to see.
So that's where I am. I'm a little, I'm still just sort of thinking things through basically, but having 2 transfers and $1 million in the bank is a nice, luxury. And, so I'll probably just, especially because if I could get Timber right now and, then that might actually be the most sensible move, right? And just keep another transfer carried over again. But because we don't know what's going on with him, or we don't know what's going on with Gabriel, I feel like I've got to just wait.
So I guess just on that, what are you talking about a Arsenal defensive double up? Like you would want Timber plus Gabriel?
Sure. I mean, I think it's a great time to do it, especially hosting Everton, right? So
agreed.
So that's where I am. Where are you at?
Sure. Yeah. I'll put my team up on screen if you're watching the YouTube. And I feel like for me, this is a week to roll. And I have like decent fixtures, decent home fixtures for everyone. As I suggested, I'm kind of like advocating for Mbomo over Morgan Rogers. Like that is the sort of like the midfield rotation that a lot of people are dealing with. And Rogers, like it's just like surprises me every game week that he starts because I mean, he's had a great season, but he's starting every game in every competition. And how long can that go on for? And then you look at Mbomo and you're like, oh, I have such certainty that you will be there for me.
Given that you still have a wild card and you're going to have to use in the next couple of weeks, if I were to offer a suggestion, I think a more aggressive move would be to consider dropping Delap and bringing in possibly a Wolves attacker. Like if you could, like getting Strand Larson for a week or two, I think would be a possible one for you to consider for Game Week 16.
Sure. Yeah, I like Wolves' attack. I do think though that Wolves' defense is really bad, and they give up a lot of opportunities. When you just look at what Craig Dawson did midweek in Game Week 14. Of all the fixtures, Delap is really kind of disappointed the last couple of game weeks. And, you're not going to get something from him every game week for sure. But this is a fixture. If there was a fixture for Delap, I feel like it would be this one. And I don't know that.
I guess that's true.
Strand Larson is an upgrade on him just for this 1 week.
4 blanks in a row, though. I mean, that is that. It's starting to feel like, or maybe if it wasn't. I mean, I do think that Strand Larson would be an upgrade just because Ipswich are also quite poor defensively. Yeah. You could also consider Evan Olsen at the Bournemouth. Yeah. I'm just throwing a couple ideas out there.
I think these are good suggestions, and I think that's the right mentality of, because I am going to have to trigger this wild card in the next 2 to 3 game weeks.
Exactly.
It's the perfect opportunity to be aggressive and to do something,
because the value of holding your transfer is just inherently less, right? When you're already going to have an opportunity to remake everything in a couple of weeks.
Sure. And you can, I think with Delap, I have fallen in love with him a bit because of the good times that we've had. Like, if I had never owned Delap, I would have this cold read of Delap of
my current read. Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Just fine, whatever, not interested.
Yeah.
And I certainly wouldn't be interested if I wasn't an owner, but you don't know him the way I know him.
It's true. I haven't spent I haven't gone I haven't been through it with him the way you have.
We've seen some stuff. We've seen some stuff. I mean, and then there is just the small matter of João Pedro. I guess we've already talked about the cat's tail and all that. I mean, I guess we've all made our João Pedro bed for the second or third time this season. We just have to keep going.
Going to Palace, pretty good match. I mean, or pretty good fixture. So, all right. Well, one last. One question, and then we'll do some captain picks, okay, to wrap things up here.
Let's do it.
The Stephen Curtis asks, is Jackson a hold or sell back to Isak? Says, I went Isak to Jackson 14 for Southampton. Since then, Jack's got a bench at 2.86 on a roll. Thoughts long term?
If you have nothing else to do in your team, no other priorities, sure, I would go Isak, no problem. This is be an active fantasy manager. Isak, even though Newcastle are just on an every other week at best cadence of looking good, Isak looks good virtually every week.
Yeah, so, he's a frustrating player for sure. I mean, I don't know why I say. I think we said this on the pod a couple weeks ago. It's he is correctly priced. He goes in these runs, and it's you start to think when you bring him in that you're buying Cole Palmer or whatever, right? You're buying a kind of mega FPL talent, whereas what you're buying is a very good forward who just will not show up 2 out of every 4 game weeks, and that's sort of just how it's going to be,
and can be limited a little bit by his team, perhaps.
Yeah. So let's look ahead now to the captaincy. So Arsenal host Everton. I'm just looking at top picks here, right? So Saka, Arsenal hosts Everton, Liverpool hosts Fulham. I suppose you could throw Isak in there as well, but I think realistically, you and I wouldn't be going that way. No. And I mean, you have the Manchester Derby on Sunday. Haaland scored. Didn't necessarily paint the most convincing picture, I thought, but he did get a goal. And
it's the age old. I mean, it was the age old. It's the argument against Haaland. It's just what he did. He scored a goal and got 2 points. He scored 8 points.
Yeah.
This is not 15 million of your budget.
He definitely didn't, and he didn't seem like he had as much fun like he did when he was losing to Liverpool. He was in a great mood that day. Felt like he was having a tougher time with this draw. So, and then you have Palmer, Chelsea hosting Brentford. So to me, I think there are 2 prime captaincy picks this week, and I think that's Liverpool hosting Fulham, so Mo Salah, and then Chelsea hosting Brentford, Cole Palmer. And I think. I actually think that Cole Palmer might be a slightly better pick in fantasy, and it's mostly because of Brentford's just. I think their relative shakiness relative to Fulham, that is, makes them a slightly more inclined to do some of the kinds of things that Spurs did today. Right, there are a lot of players in Chelsea who like to get in the box, capable of drawing a foul, right? So it might be a little easier for them to get some kind of cheap. Like, I don't think Fulham's going to beat themselves. It's, in this match. I think they'll probably lose, right? But it could be like a 2-0 Liverpool win, a 2-1 Liverpool win. Whereas you could just see Brentford stepping on some rakes, right? And like sort of losing like 4-0 or something like that, or 4-1, right? And Solo and Bomo out of nothing, counterattack goal, and then 4 other goals from Chelsea along the way. Yeah. So and Brentford are also good enough that like they're going to play this match, right? Like Brentford are not a real like they don't even really have the personnel to do it, right? But they're not like a park the bus kind of team, right? Like Brentford are not going to put 10 guys behind the ball, like, or, it's just not like what they're going to, so I don't know. No. Or 10 in the box, I should say.
The one thing you would say additionally about the Liverpool Fulham match is that Bassey got his 5th yellow card against Arsenal, which means he'll miss the Liverpool match. So you're already, Joachim Anderson, he's got a calf strain. Maybe he's back for the Liverpool match, but, then he'd have to prepare with Diop. So it's still like you're not getting your best center back partnership for Fulham. And if Anderson is not fit to play against Liverpool, that means it's Diop plus kind of a very green Spanish center back and Cuenca. So
interesting.
I wonder if that is a problem for Fulham away from home.
That's interesting. I mean, it probably is. I mean,
like Bassey has not like been an elite center back this season, but like going back to the Arsenal offside goal, like he basically has his head about him. Like he is basically running that back line in Anderson's absence, and with him out, I just feel like it increases the threat opportunity for Liverpool attack.
Yeah. Okay. So. Well, that's a good wrinkle. I mean, I've sort of laid out my slight preference for Cole Palmer. I do think that we're almost at the point where we can think of him and Salah in like almost equal terms, right? Salah's still got the longer track record, has been a little more consistent this season. Didn't play this last weekend, and so maybe it's easier again to consider other candidates, right? And if he had done what he has been doing recently and gotten a goal and an assist or something like that, then maybe we're not even having much of a debate right now. But also, they will have played at midweek, right? You said that they're away as well, right?
Yes, they are away.
So it's an away match followed by a home match on Saturday, right? So not as much rest as normal. So
they're away Girona on Tuesday. So it's Tuesday to Saturday for Liverpool.
Yeah. So certainly not terrible. But still, like, whereas Palmer will just be sitting I don't think he'll even train this week, Brendan. I think he sits on a couch for 7 full days.
Staring into the middle distance with his mouth agape.
Yeah, exactly. Letting that hair grow longer. Keep that fire tucked.
What a head of hair.
Imagine him with really long hair. Like, but like kind of like greasy. Like, imagine if his hair was like Trent Reznor. It was like kind of like not quite dreadlocks, but real like.
Oh, he did that the old school like late 90s, like with like a shoelace headband around it.
Oh, that would be cool. Yeah, that would be cool. Like like a Beckham style,
Frankie Haydick style.
Yeah. Okay, I like this. Yeah. So, and I was thinking 90s, right? Yeah, I'm like, I just pulled up Reznor now. I mean, now he's like a short hair. He looks like Henry Rollins now.
He's a suit. Reznor is now. He's winning awards and all this kind of stuff.
Sold out to the man.
Yeah, it's funny. Like Salah and Palmer are in that same space of like you can watch either of them play, and you're like, I watched 45 minutes of this guy, and I didn't get a lot of looks. The defense is sniffing out all of his opportunities, stymieing him. Stymieing?
Stymieing. Yeah, it's a hard one to say. Yeah.
And then they'll just pop up. And Salah is just bang consistent with popping up and doing the fantasy thing. And Palmer this season, he has gone like, the longest stretch was 3 weeks, admittedly, where he blanked. But still, you could watch the first half of that Spurs match and you think, well, I guess Palmer did have his chances. He just didn't take them. I don't know.
Yeah.
He's a fire hose guy. I was telling you on the Patreon pod. He's a fire hose guy. When he's not on, it's just a dripping faucet. And when he's on, he'll blow you down.
I think they're both great picks. I think if you want to be a little bit riskier, then I think I like him. And I think if you want to be a slight, I mean, again, I'm not like saying you're some like conservative drone if you do this, but like if you want to be slightly more conservative, I think that Salah is the safest pick, certainly with the highest floor. And then I do think that Saka would be third, just because it does seem like they have it. They still, even, I thought they were sort of looking better out of the international break, but you can see in that Fulham match today, there are times when it feels like they are not synced up in their attack. And
Jorginho's a weird one. Like starting with him against Fulham,
he's like 40. It's like, I mean, I don't know.
I wasn't going to mention his age,
but
just he's just not dynamic. He's not dynamic enough for what they need. Yeah. And Marino, I just like the fact that they still haven't integrated Marino fully into that squad is got to be infuriating for Arsenal fans.
I know. Well, this match was another example. Like I joked on Blue Sky earlier today. It's my second Blue Sky reference. It's like we should get paid, man. I should stop. Surely. I should say a social media network until we start getting that.
No free
sweet
ads.
Ad dollars. Exactly. Yeah. But I was joking that you can always tell when a match is going badly for Arsenal when Declan Rice is taking every shot. It's like I mean, credit to him for like trying to take the match by the scruff of its neck. But it's like, I always know when Arsenal are in trouble because like, oh wow, there's Declan Rice again. Like just like
doing hero ball.
Yeah, doing hero ball. Exactly. It's usually not a good sign, unfortunately.
It's like trying to paint the league title on a single grain of rice.
Wow.
You might say.
Yeah, you sound like some of the Premier League commentators that we're blessed to hear every week. Yeah. All right, Brandon. Well, thank you for being a friend. Travel down that road and back again.
Absolutely.
Let's sign off this week, Brandon. Thank you to all of our Patreon supporters. If you want to become a supporter of the podcast, you can find us on Patreon, patreon.com/alwayscheating. If you want to chat with us, you can do that on the Patreon Discord. You can email us, hailcheaters@gmail.com. Or you can find us on Blue Sky. We're always cheating FPL on Blue Sky. Brendan, do you want to thank our producer patrons?
Absolutely. As always, big thanks to producers Mike DePietro, Trevor Ingerson, Dave Wagner-Lodahl, our buddy Chris Howell, Andy Penn, Nick Wright, Lazaros Llanos, Jesse Halstead, Brian Chin, Bobbas Kuhn, Blair Jacobson, Todd Byerly, Andy Portlock, Dan Parsons, Terrence O'Donnell, Kerry Swanson, Jefferson Turner, as he does it, Francis Moore, Sam Shower, Craig Jackson, Caleb Robbie, Brian Clark, Thomas Tislov, Fro Jacobson, Gareth H., Shalin F. Kadakia, Rishi Nigam, Noah and Louise, Travis Grant, Linus Vennerstrom, Matthew Skinner, Ben Coombs, Eric Kite, Rune Sandberg, the three Jims, James Murraywood, James C., and James Holland. God, James, I really feel for you as an Ipswich fan right now. Like,
yeah, that's a tough match.
I know.
It's funny. I had them on the running order too, and then I actually did skip it because I was like, they don't need it. They don't need it right now.
Don't kick them while they're down. And of course, producers Scully, Craig at Total Mass Tutoring, and Francis Mann. Rate, review, subscribe wherever you get your podcasts. Josh, I'll talk to you on the Patreon pod later this week.
That sounds good. Yeah. Happy holidays, everybody. Talk to you soon. Bye.